All right, so yeah, today we're going to be talking about what to do when you feel like you need time to make time, basically. You know, it's the same kind of thing as you often will see, I wish I had all of this time to do all of this stuff. If I had the time that I could do this stuff, that would give me more time back. Yeah, well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's interesting because when you're early in your business, it feels like you need money to make money, which I mean, it's true as you get like to the higher revenue levels, right? Yeah. Even at multi-6 or 7 figures, still people feel like, I need money to make money, right? The more money I have, I can put more into like client acquisition, right? That's a big thing, right? It's like, oh man, if I had like $10,000 a month that I could be putting into ads, I'd be like a $100 million business today, right? Like, or whatever the story is. But when you're just starting your business, that's like where your brain goes. And as your business grows and it gets, bigger and there's more going on in it, what I've observed is that the challenge becomes more around time. Like, I don't have time to do the things that would grow the business. I don't have time to make more time. I don't have time to hire. I don't have time to do all of those things. And I think it's a challenge, right? Especially, it's top of mind for me, right? Because we're developing a program and we're like, people are going to come and say like, I'm too busy. I don't have time to do a program like this. Yeah.
I can't take 9 weeks out of my schedule.
Well, yeah, and it won't be like 9 weeks of like not doing stuff, right? It'll be like a couple hours a week for 9 weeks. But yeah, and so I think we should start off like by really talking about what does it mean to need time? Like, what do you even need time for? Maybe let's start there. Like, you need time to make more time, but how does time help us make more time in the first place? What happens if you don't solve this problem and you don't figure out a way out of this like Gordian knot type situation?
Well, one of the things I often hear from our clients is that they need time to make plans.
Yeah.
And they don't have the time to make the plan.
Yeah.
And so for them, that kind of comes up and that shows up as them like they're fighting fires all the time. They're being reactive.
Yeah. It's like, if only I could get ahead.
Yeah.
Then I actually could like maybe get ahead and
make some plans.
Yeah. Or like maybe stay ahead. Right.
Yeah.
Not just like for planning, but what I often hear is like, it's like the working in the business versus working on the business type of thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I wish I had time to work on the business. Well, why do you want to have time to work on the business? Because while I'm in it, it's like, there's all this day-to-day attention. And we see this a lot with hiring. It's like, I know I need to hire someone to handle all of the customer service stuff that like I'm being inundated with emails and customer service stuff or customer support or, engaging with my clients or whatever. Like, I know I could hire someone for that, but I don't have the time to stop like managing the inbox. And I don't exactly want to work longer hours. And so it's like, how can you hire or like designers or developers, right? Who are like, I'm always doing design work for clients. I don't have time to like go and hire and vet and screen and whatever else for like someone to give me more time. Like, I don't have time to go get myself more time.
Yeah. And also too, it's kind of one of those things that in a lot of cases for people, they don't have time for their existing team. They don't have time
or their team is taking up too much of their time.
Is taking up too much of their time. Yeah.
Right. It's like, why do I have to spend so much time babysitting? Because most of the people we talk about, it's not that they want to spend more time with their team. Yeah. It's like, why do I have to spend so much time with my team? Right.
Yeah. And it's not that the team members are bad.
No,
it's just, there's lots of things.
Yeah, well, it's like picking up the pieces and fighting the fires. And like you said, like being reactive and being overwhelmed and that kind of thing. And so I think the first thing that we really have to nail down is, why is that actually a problem? Because, we all have the same number of hours in the day. This is what someone could argue, right? We all have the same number of hours a day. It's just prioritization. You just need to plan better. You need to whatever.
I hate that argument.
But logically it's true.
Logically it's true.
And so I think that's where a lot of the common advice about how to make more time falls down, because it's like, just prioritize better, just, put stuff on your calendar, just whatever. Mm-hmm. But the problem isn't the actual tasks or, like putting planning on your calendar doesn't actually solve the issue, because the real issue underneath all of it is, like say you put it on your calendar and you get there And honestly, what happens is you end up like self-sabotaging a lot of the time. It's like you allow yourself to go and fight fires, or you allow yourself to go in your inbox.
And you won't even realize it.
No, it's like the alarm comes up and you're like, oh yeah, I was going to work on the business, but here's this crisis thing, here's this other thing. Yeah. And what it creates is a situation where we have to perpetually be fighting fires. Like we have to always be staying behind that 8 ball. And I think a lot of the reason in my experience why this happens is because people truly don't believe that it can change.
Yeah.
Like they think that like this is just the way that it is. Like this is what having a business and running a business is.
They just can't see a future where it's different.
Right. Like a future, like, so it's like the future, if the future is always going to be like, there's always going to be things coming up. I'm always going to have to fight fires. I'm always going to have to babysit my team. Like, why would I even want to go and hire?
Why bother?
Yeah, why bother? Why would I want to go and hire more people? It just means more work, more babysitting, more that kind of thing. Yeah. And that's self-sabotage and not realizing that that's the story that we're telling ourselves. That's actually the thing that we have to address. We have to address the self-sabotage, and we have to address the reasons that we're not doing the things that are on the calendar when we say, or and sometimes you're just taking on too much. A lot of times you're taking on too much, and you're like, no is a full sentence. That's something that people don't necessarily realize.
Taking on too much, or not having. This is where I get into a lot of conversations with our clients about control. Not giving up control.
But that's scary too, right? And it's like, and that's the story, right? It's either I'm going to have to micromanage or I'm going to have to give up control. Yeah. And I don't want to do either of those things. And this is the story that's in the back of my head. I was thinking about one of our clients who's been kind of at the $700,000, $800,000 mark for the last 2 or 3 years, and incremental growth, but not really growing. Yeah. And we're like, okay, this is why you haven't grown. And it's because we're like, okay, what happens after you hit $1 million? And she's like, I have no idea. Yeah. And everything she could imagine after $1 million, it sounded terrible. I was like, well, no wonder you're not actually doing the stuff that you could be doing to grow the business.
Why would you want to?
Why would you bother? So let's paint a different picture. Let's tell them what it can actually be like, so that maybe that's a different story you can have in your head, so that when it comes to actually working on the business instead of in the business or whatever, that you don't just self-sabotage your way out of it by like, I'm just going to go do this thing that's urgent but not important. Yeah. Yeah. That was a cue for you to like
jump into something.
Well, yeah. Like, so, but what is it, right? So, what we're afraid of is that it doesn't get better, right? We're afraid that it's always going to be fighting fires. It's always going to be being the bottleneck and down in the weeds. We're always, afraid we're always going to, like, more people means more management, means more stress. But what's the reality? I mean, that is a reality if you don't do it right.
It is a reality.
But if you do it right, which is why we're going to teach it in the academy, hashtag, I don't know, what would that be, like, self-promo hashtag? But what does it look like? If you get it right, what happens?
It means that, you've got the ability to have a team that takes responsibility for themselves. Maybe there's someone that is actually, like, not you. Specifically not you.
Yeah.
But someone that is managing them, not just managing the projects, but like middle management, supervisor, someone that's actually managing the team, helping them grow, helping them expand.
Right, but tell me about like a team that takes responsibility for themselves. What do you even mean by that? Because you just went straight into management, and a lot of people are like, I don't want management. I want to deal with that. They want like,
that's fair.
Like Dan Sullivan talks about the self-managing team, right? Like, what does that actually mean? What does that look like?
Well, that's a team that basically every individual is taking responsibility. I know it's saying taking responsibility for themselves, but it's taking responsibility for what they're doing and their actions. It's not constantly checking in. We had one client that had a team that every single thing, I am not kidding you, every single thing that they needed to do, they would go and they would check with her, is this okay first? Right? That's not them taking responsibility. That's them leaving responsibility completely in the owner's hands. So
right.
I'm pointing at you, but
it wasn't me. It wasn't me that did that.
Completely in the owner's hands.
Right.
It's also.
But what's the alternative? Like, you're still talking about the problem. So what's the solution look like?
Oh, well, fine then.
Like, when you have a team that takes responsibility, what does it look like?
It looks like a team that is taking even more things off your plate. It's looking like a team that is helping the business to run like a machine.
Yeah.
Right? Where you give inputs, or a client gives an input, and you don't even need to create the systems. You just define what the outcome needs to be, and your team goes and creates the systems to make that outcome happen.
Right, because that's one of the solutions that people try when they're trying to solve time, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to go, and in order to make time, I'm going to go invest a whole bunch of time integrating systems.
Yeah.
And
those systems never get used.
Well, or they get used. Like, that's not true.
Okay.
Because you hire someone who's right. If you're hiring helpers on the visionary pyramid, if you're hiring people who are helpers, they follow the checklists and they get used. But like, you spend so much time creating those checklists and creating SOPs and processes, and it's like, it's not your genius. It feels like pulling teeth. You're like, why do I have to be doing this? Yeah, I mean, I've never created a system in my life. I'm a very systematic person, but I don't create the systems because it's not a good use of my time. Now, does that mean systems are bad? No, but it means that I shouldn't be the one creating them. And so when I've, been working with a team, whether, it's in this business or, in previous, career positions, type, that kind of thing, it's been like, okay, here's the outcome. Here's what we're trying to achieve. Here's what it looks like. Now go create the system. And like, you do the documentation, not me.
Who better to do the documentation and create the system?
Right. Like the person who's actually doing the thing. And the problem is, and this is where we start talking a little bit about, the hiring hook. It's like, oh, I have to create a system, a checklist so that the person can do it exactly the way I would do it. But they're not you. And what if they could do it better? Like, isn't that the whole point of hiring, is to hire someone who's better at this
than you are?
Yeah. Like, that's
someone that's their zone of genius.
Yeah. And so if you want a business that, runs itself, which I hate that phrase, because there is no such thing as a business that runs itself. People run a business. That should be like the headline or the hashtag or like the thing, right? It's not the business that runs itself. It's people that run the business. But that doesn't have to mean that it's you that is like telling the people what to do at every stage.
In fact, we don't want you to.
No, like, we want you to be doing the things that you're meant to be doing, which is like spending your time creating or having the new ideas, figuring out like, what is this thing going to be, and spending your time doing those things. And that's ultimately what creates the business that feels like it's running by itself.
And that's the key piece, right? It's that it feels like it is.
Right. Because it's still, the business is still being run by people, right? People run businesses.
There are no automatic businesses.
No, there's no such thing as an automatic business. There's no such thing as a business that runs itself. There's not even really a self-managing team. There's self-managing people, and people can come together to form a team, and there will be a leader of that team. But I think that's ultimately where you get to, like, what does it mean to have a business that feels like it runs effortlessly? Yeah. Well, that's one where you're spending your time doing what you're meant to be doing, and other people on the team are doing what they're meant to be doing. And you're defining the inputs, you're defining what that looks like in the outcome, and then they're just figuring out
how to get from point A to point B.
Right. And then eventually down the road, maybe you do put in place managers or supervisors or those kind of people who can even just take your big ideas and translate it to them. Yeah. So that you can just completely stay in ideal. And some people at that point, like, they sell their business, or they're like, they hire a CEO, right? And that's an option to you once you get to the top of the visionary pyramid.
Or they hire a CEO, and they go and they talk. They do talks at seminars and conferences.
Or they write books. Right? It's like, I'm just going to be the thought leader. And there was a Brené Brown article that was posted not long ago, and she did not have that kind of business, right? And she was like, I've got this massive company, and I can only see it getting worse. If you want to read that, go just scroll down the timeline on the business page here. But it's like, let's get you where you want to go, right? If you want a business that feels like it runs effortlessly, the only way you do that is by making sure that you've got the people who run the business, right? The people who run the business, and that everyone's in their zone of genius. What would be your kind of summary or key takeaways or kind of things that what jumps out at you from the conversation?
The big things are, we have this concept of you need time to make time, and it's, to a certain extent, it's totally true, but it's
not true. I'm going to stop you because we just spent 20 minutes talking about how that's not true.
But it's true because it's up here.
Oh, okay. Because that's the story we tell ourselves.
That's the story that we tell ourselves.
Right.
Right. We make it true.
Right. Which is why we self-sabotage.
There we go.
Right. Because we use that story as a thing we're telling ourselves because we are afraid of what's on the other side. We're afraid of what happens if we actually were to grow the business.
Yeah.
And that it's just going to be more of the same awfulness that it is right now.
Yeah, and that basically what we're doing when we're saying that we don't have the time is we're not making the time.
Yeah.
And that's where the self-sabotage piece comes in. So there's my summary.
Oh, okay.
You
All right.
you kind of took the rest half of it, but
yeah. All right. Cool. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is like if you're constantly afraid that the future is just going to bring more of the situation you're in right in, why would you?